Good morning to all of you, and thanks to Punjab Haryana Delhi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Oh, no, it's thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you and address you on this very, very important subject. Of course, Sanjay ji is an old friend. I've been in this PhD chamber along with him on almost every occasion, and maybe this must be my 12th or 13th which I have shared with him, and it's always a pleasure, sir, to be sharing the diet with you. I have pleasure to be with the DK Agarwal President and wish you a grand tenure and hopefully see a lot of interesting things under your stewardship. Yogesh, a good friend, and whenever he has something concerning me, he doesn't forget to ensure that I'm here. So that's nice of you, and feel honored by your consideration. Got some wonderful insights from Dugal. I think I will also cover certain very important aspects which he has raised from the policy angle, which is also important from the point of view of a forum like the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry as to how it is going to drive policy and in terms of public positioning. And because your actions and considered views will be a great input to making policy, or even if it is being made, have confidence that the policy will work, because ultimately policies of this nature relating to retail chains may be suggested at the government level or at quasi-government level, but unless and until the trade, as we get a buy-in from the trade, unlikely these policies will ever see the light of the day or be implemented in the manner in which it is implemented. So, and logistics is a very important sector in this. I mean, no policies of the government will work in logistics unless and until there is a buy-in from the trade. And having been here for 1.5 years, I think I can claim to be a veteran. And having been to at least 4 conferences a month, I would have completed more than 50 in my tenure so far. And every conference has been a huge learning experience, which I have factored in policy making. And that's one thing which I can tell you, that particularly logistics supply chain is no different. Maybe it's at the cutting edge of all previous policies concerning the logistics stack, if I can say. It is important that there is a huge industry buy-in, and there are so many players in this logistics sector. I have at least 55 associations, very active logistics association with whom I deal. And therefore my meetings on the Standing Committee on Promotion of Exports, which we have converted into internal trade as well, is invariably a 2-day affair. Because if I need to hear every person, even the mere hearing without giving them a chance to reply or mind the thing, takes 2 days. That's the level.
So this level of involvement of the government at your level, I think that by itself is a huge encouragement.
Thank you. And that's but that's the way it is, because that's the nature of the animal. It's not something which you could decide at your at the office space with a few persons or people who have knowledge, because it's highly practical and changes by the geographical territory. For example, logistics at ports is quite different from logistics at an inland. And I'm just coming from a place called Coimbatore, where the whole logistics issues are just totally different from what you have in places like Coimbatore. I mean, in places like JNPT, or even the 2 ports which it addresses, namely the Kochi and the Tuticorin ports. So they are totally different issues which you face there, and that's been that's why I go there and participate in their meetings. I'm grateful to you, sir, all of you, for having invited me here on this retail logistics, concerning the retail supply chain logistics. And which gave me an occasion for me to think on this subject, definitely, because speaking at a forum like this, which involves experts, does require a fair bit of thinking on my part as to what are the issues which need to be addressed. Although I have a whole lot of gamut of issues, I will be restricting myself due to paucity of time to certain policy-related issues, which I think you could address. I'm specifically skipping some of the issues which are going to address us at sessions, because I see there are very, very erudite persons in those sessions, and quite a few of them I interact frequently, and I share their views, and I'm pretty certain that no useful purpose will be served by my repeating some of the issues which is going to be traversed in those sessions. So I will try to skip them and try to address only those issues which are unlikely to be addressed in their sessions. The first thing on retail logistics is city logistics. India is a nightmare for city logistics. Any urbanization is anti-logistics today in India. The first thing anybody does, if he is a municipal authority or even a bigger panchayat, is to say, truck andar nahi aana chahiye. I mean, that becomes a sort of a status of power, of political power locally. But they don't know that they pay the cost for it. And it is very essential that people are told that if you keep a truck waiting in Bangalore for 3 days, you pay 60,000 rupees to its costs. And that's not being told. So places like cities are actually already adding retail costs like mad. The entire efficiencies which you gain in the highways is being lost at the gates of the city. And the first thing which I think PhD chamber would be concerned, because a lot of these areas where you are operational are urbanized. And it is very essential that you address this issue of city logistics as a priority. You cannot have retail supply chains, cost-effective retail supply chains, without addressing city logistics. And it is a key element. I mean, it cannot be that I move every time it is a court which should give permission for my goods to move in. That's not the business of, should be the business of courts. It should be the business of the business to organize it. And some of these, if certain aspects need to be addressed, it needs to be taken up with those cities or towns or town panchayats, wherever those restrictions take place, to see that these logistics are addressed. It is important to do that. Even if vehicles are waiting outside the city, they need to be provided for. They need to be, I mean, it cannot be that you just park it on the roads, which becomes a consequence. I mean, if you are not allowing me into the city, I need to park on the roads because no real thought process has gone into it. And that stops further vehicles, creates further problems, and then people will say that it is these trucks which create these problems, forgetting that these trucks are here because they have been invited to supply to the city. So we need to change that paradigm, and it is very essential that we start, that institutions like PhD chambers start talking about it in its conferences and hold it and hold the city accountable for what it is doing, and also tell the city that because they are doing this, this is the cost which they pay. And it's very important because people think that when you stop something outside the city, they don't pay the cost. They need to know that they pay much more. Much more. 3 days stoppage is virtually like traveling on 3 days, because the vehicle has not earned, and therefore somebody will cost you. And rightly so. I don't say that those assets are available. Those national assets, maybe privately owned, are not to be costed. The second aspect is within cities. How many of you have last gone to Connaught Place? Say in the last 1 month.
Unless one has a business to do.
No, just raise your hands. I mean, that tells you that you can't go there. That's a simple answer. Now, even the only people who can afford to go there are people with chauffeur-driven cars. If you don't have a chauffeur-driven car, you can't go. It's as simple as that. It's a nightmare going to any place, whether it is South Extension, whether it is, and therefore you find most people are people who have drivers who drive their cars so that they can keep moving up and down. And that's it. People who admire retail shopping, it's a great stress buster if you ask me, and you ask any person. I mean, one of the biggest stress busters is actually going shopping, and window shopping the better. But we don't have that options at all. And cities are depriving people of this option. Now, you might say that Amazon, we can order things online. Maybe it's good. It's an option available to people who are at work, people who know that this is a product which they want, and that's a repeat purchase. It makes sense. But a lot of people would like to go shopping as just a simple experience of it. But this country is depriving people of shopping as an experience. And that's a key element of city logistics. It's time we actually restore to people the joys of shopping. As long as we don't do it, there is no point telling कि भाई दुकान में कोई आ नहीं सकता है. आपने जगह तो किया ही नहीं है. कनॉट प्लेस में अगर आप जाएंगे, अभी तो खाली होगा सुबह 7 बजे, बट पूरी पार्किंग जो है, वो तो जो शॉपकीपर्स हैं, उन्हीं के पार्किंग में चली जाती है. उनके आदमी खड़े रहते हैं और उन्हीं के शॉपिंग. पब्लिक के लिए तो कुछ है ही नहीं. And it is therefore essential to do another aspect of it. I mean, you might be thinking that in a digitized situation, why are you coming? Actually, why are you talking about certain hardware-related things? I mean, the key essence of it is whatever will be digitized or anything which may be digitized for convenience. Ultimately, logistics is not speculative business. It's making available a product and moving a product from one place to another and making it available on the shelf. So it's a physical product. There is a physical thing about it. The last transaction is always a physical thing. It's not virtual. And therefore, it's very essential to restore some of these along with the benefits of digitization. Digitization not as a substitute for the experience and joys of shopping, but digitization to help me have a better feel of the shopping experience. I think these are the three aspects of city logistics which I thought I'll mention. There are other aspects like helping create parking. I mean, that comes into the hardcore logistics. You need to help create, get people into your shopping arenas, maybe manage it, ensure that those who shop are told that, okay, whatever may be your parking, you chaps like me who like window shopping should not be saying that if I go to Connaught Place, I need to shell out 500 rupees. I should be able to park there and say, buy something, and then say, okay, you have purchased this much, so your shopping is free. And something which they do with great elan in major markets with which we should become aligned in terms of the behavioral patterns. My next aspect is core logistics on warehousing. I mean, as was mentioned earlier, GST has changed the nature of retail businesses forever. About 3 months ago or 4 months ago, I was at a seminar on warehousing where where there was a presentation by Knight and Frank and also James Lesalong, who made a presentation, who are working on the field of logistics, and I'm happy to quote from them that India over the last 3 years has had almost $6.2 billion in warehousing. Not for purchasing existing warehouses. It's not for purchasing existing warehouses. 98% of them have gone for creating new warehouse space. And in what? In A and B qualities. Which means new warehousing has come in A and B quality, which means international quality warehouses are there. And that's it. And I was told that this is unlikely to end soon. I had made in my speech a suggestion based on figures which I had in government that the market is growing at 23%. And they corrected me. They said, sir, the next two digits is the correct figure. It is 34%. It's going year on year and constitutes one of the fastest growing businesses in this country. I think some warehousing people are there. I see Dinkar from the air logistics. They are building warehouses as if they are tomorrow is not going to come. So that's some of the things which I'm aware of. And that's the way people are looking at it. And these are all not small warehouses. These are huge. Some of them, as I saw in one of the pictures in Pune, had 256 doors. I mean, you could simultaneously handle 256 trucks at the same time. The nature of warehouse is something quite different. Material handling systems will be different. I mean, when you are talking of drones, I think that's where the aspects come. We don't need to be talking of drones outside the thing which has security implications, but we can always talk of drones within the warehouse. I would do that as any personal officer would be interested in that, because I would say the best way to punish a fellow in a warehouse is to ask him to walk to the opposite diagonal and come back. His day is over. So it's huge, and that's the way businesses are. They are transforming the way things are in terms of internal logistics, particularly textiles, where manufacturing or value addition, warehouses are not centers of just storage and just retrieval. They are also centers of value addition, and that's the way modern warehouses are going. If you look at the export-import trade, you have the free trade warehousing zones, where value addition makes a very important contribution. It's a thing where it's possible to import for export through value addition, and those are all concepts relating to warehousing and how we could go forward. Digitization here plays a very important role in this, because the nature of warehousing in each, the nature of value addition in each are different. There are requirements of maintaining inventories, there are requirements of maintaining things which move out, and that's a matter which requires substantial investment in development of software or platforms, about which I will come a little later. Third aspect which I would like to cover, where digitization is a very important role, particularly in retail trade, is return logistics. I mean, it's adding huge costs on, because when you give a promise that you could return things, a lot of people are having return logistics. And when it is stated that you have return logistics, you require a different retail chain, because you can't send it back to the source because it's too costly. So you need to create small hubs where those return items are available and resold locally. Those aspects are important. So you have a whole concept of new market development based on returns. And those is it's at its infancy in this country. But unless and until we have a very vibrant return logistics, which involves documentation and indicating to people why they returned it, but the reason why you returned it may not be the same why I returned it. It's quite okay. But people say, well, return logistics is an important area to go for cheap shopping. A lot of people would be interested. Bargain hunters would be interested in this. But this is an area where, in the retail chain, where we have not developed much. Particularly, it's important for this express logistics, where you would do it by order by mail. So this is an area where I thought a huge amount of retail logistics is important. But Here also, a particular amount of hardware is important. It's not possible for every individual business to have a return logistics. You need to have a location by which individuals, hundreds of you who are working on this field, who are getting returns, you should have an option to be putting it in that location or in any nearby hub to say, okay, here is a return logistics space, it's available and people will come shopping. I mean, if I could draw the parallel, it is a Haryana handloom concept. I mean, you have the Haryana handloom fellows. I mean, he can be found in every remote town of this country. Somebody will be having Haryana handloom. So, I mean, that's all return logistics. If you come to think of it, they're all return logistics. And that's one area which I thought, if you want to have a software or a digitization surrounding it, you must have the retail ecosystem viable before you could do it. Individual things is improbable for people to develop it. And if the ecosystem is facilitated by institutions like you, it makes sense. And I'm not trying to say that it should be free. It should be a group of entrepreneurs who could be pulling money and then organizing it cost effectively. My fourth submission to you is on the issue of agri-logistics. It is something which I'm working pro bono, and I can give you an anecdotal evidence on this issue. Mainly because a group of us have been working for the last 6 to 8 months, and because of that, we have certain data to present before you. All of us did that onion and tomato purchase at 120 and 150 rupees. All of you have done? That's fine. And there is an ENAM. How many of you are aware that the price at every market, agricultural market in India, is actually public? How many of you know that? A huge number. It's called the ENAM portal. You open it out, it will keep changing like a stock exchange, and the prices will keep appearing, and you know about it. Now I come from the state of Karnataka, and there is a market called Kolar, which we targeted. And we found that the same two products are available around the time when Delhi was purchasing at 120 and 150. The market in Kolar, the product was available at markets in Kolar, supplies had come, and it was around 25-30 rupees. It went up to 45 as well, and that's it. It was known. All of you, businesses, retail professionals, saw it. The markets in Kolar did not change. As I told you, this is a variation. The markets in Delhi continued to be 100, 120, 150 for almost 60 days. 45 days, surely. Can't say, leave it to you to judge on the 45 to 60. But you can say that it was so for 45 days. That's for certain. Look it up, the website. It's now historical. But nothing moved from Kolar to this place. There the people got only 30 rupees. And digitization was there. Digitization had played its part. You conveyed the information. ENAM as a digitized platform conveyed information thoroughly to all of us. We are all educated supply chain professionals. But prices in Kolar did not rise, prices in Delhi did not come down. Why it happened?
Awareness.
No. All the entire logistics is physical business.
Because of election in Delhi.
Huh?
Because of election of Delhi.
No.
This was a mandate.
Why did you not transport? You are a professional, you are a supply chain businessman. Why did you buy it to Kolar? It takes 2 days to transport onion, and onion doesn't require cold chain. In 2 days, tomatoes don't get spoiled because tomatoes last 7 days in the market. But none of you did it.
So there is cartelization also in that.
1 minute, nothing prevents you. See, what I'm trying to say is,
Traders were not interested.
no, 1 minute. That's the point. There is no market making available. That's the point. If at all it is cartelization, certainly it is not Sivasailam who did it. It is members of your fraternity only. Isn't it? So, see, what is important is markets were not created. Supply chain did not create the movement from that place. So, digitization did its part. But unless and until in logistics, there is an incentive for markets to move a product from A to B. No, you may continue to have those figures, but it will not happen. And I would essentially request you to do one thing. There is no point romanticizing about digitization unless and until you are ready to operate on the markets.
It's only a tool, sir.
It's only a tool. So, digitization per se don't create markets. They may give you opportunities for markets, but they don't create. It is the trade which creates markets. And one important aspect of trade, which I mentioned in my previous submission at PhD Chambers, was the issue of freight forwarding. The freight forwarding as a community exists only in export-import markets. It does not exist in domestic markets. And it's not that the freight forwarding, they are mere intermediaries. They are important trade intermediaries. I mean, merely because if somebody is an intermediary, does not mean that he is bad. I mean, we need to get over that. As long as they are performing an important market function, and they create and they help move markets, they are important intermediaries. Tomorrow, those intermediaries may become backwardly integrated or integrated forward. That's a different issue. But an activity, I'm talking about activity. That activity needs to be performed. An activity of moving products, judging markets and moving it, ensuring that it comes down in Delhi and ensuring that it moves up from Kolar and thereby getting benefits to the people. People should see value, and I rest my case only on that aspect. I would essentially request you that when you talk about digitization, the caveat is, does market exist to take it? And that's one area where we are working. And if at all if the budget has stated that it is trying to address this important aspect of expecting trade to fill the huge gap which exists in agri-logistics. You might have market makers at the market. You might have market makers at the market here, but you don't have people across markets. And that is one area of business which, as a chamber, if you could, facilitate, catalyze, and encourage businesses to come. Digital systems can add huge efficiencies even at start. Otherwise, you might be inefficient, and then digitization may bring in efficiency. But here we are starting where that we are confident of our digitization, and therefore we start off with huge efficiencies at start. And one of my purposes of coming over today is to request the trade to address this a little more seriously as a business opportunity for the members and for others who would like to enter this trail. That was one of the purposes of my visit here. And two particular things you can make. Where are the areas where you can start? Train SLRs. You might have said we tried it, we failed. That's fine. We failed not because of the SLRs, because of situations outside the SLRs, which actually requires huge digitization. I mean, the train tracking will have to be done, but you can't be holding it on the platform because the trains come to the passenger platform. So you need to get it at a time which does not disturb passenger movement, and you might have a whole lot of pelletization, you might have a whole lot of tracking which is there because something should get down and then it should be tracked and moved to an intermediate station. Huge amount of digitization is required upfront. And I would strongly advise those on the digitization platform field willing to take up this, start with digitization, you won't fail. and some sort of a hardware, including pelletization for pellets, to move it so that you are able to put it in 5 minutes in which the train stops, pull out commodities. Suppose it stops at Gwalior, you need to be putting it in the, then the organization is important because where it is situated is important. Pull it out, push the rest in, and the train goes all in 5 minutes. So those are some of the, and those requires automation as well as the tracking, digitization upfront to start. It's a great opportunity which is going to come. The second aspect which has been announced in the budget, Shri, as I'm speaking to you, people are already on the huge groups are already meeting to address this issue. This is an area of great opportunity, particularly on the India, Northeast India trade. I would, and most of it, this chamber has got a lot of interest in that because a lot of trade is from this area to Northeast, and you could make a huge difference in this in Udan logistics, even in number one, number two. I will also speak about the inland waterways trade in the same breath, and that's an important area in which the chamber may take an interest. You might say that inland waterways moves from Kolkata or Haldia. A lot of products from here would do that. And that's an important area which is available. You have people have started moving. The trial runs have taken place. It was done by 2 ships of Adani which went. Surprisingly, you can call the chief executive officer. He has an hour-by-hour detailing of the movement. Hour-by-hour detailing of the movement. And it took 17 days. And the market requires, to be a successful market, it needs to be between 6 to 8 days. And that's where your contribution of this house as to how you should organize it, get it back to the authorities, and then organize it is important. You know that worst possible situation is 17 days, but that does not make it as a business. It makes it as an option. But you need to get those things right. And if it is 7 to 8 days, I think we are in business. Because it makes 2 days plus from here, 9 days, you still are okay. And if you are able to cut off 2 days, better off. So this is an important area where I would strongly advise on the logistics front. And this requires extensive digitization upfront to create the business. I mean, it's not that you just transfer, move the products and then create it. You need to have that upfront, and you need to get those logistics features on board even as you start. My last point is based on presentation made by Mr. Sumit Dubel. I note I was basically uncomfortable with one statement that I'm the exclusive technical partner for Walmart. I'm uncomfortable with that. The nation is uncomfortable with that. I would like it to be a platform in which many of you will be able to have it. That's the way to go. India requires a platform.
We are open to other distributors.
But you didn't say that.
Yes, so no,
I didn't want you to be open. They should have a natural right. You are not anybody to give me permission to you can do that. But I should have an opportunity on my own. The logistics. I have just decided a case yesterday in which on a simple email from me, 56% has been refunded. Which means what? The market is 100%. If out of 1.60 lakhs, 58% was refunded, which means the market is more than 100% on 58, for 45. That is the bane of India's logistics. Huge rent-seeking behaviors creating monopolies. And we cannot afford it on a technical platform. If I'm going to be deprived because I can only go through Google, I'm to that extent inferior by it. So this nation, therefore, it is very essential. There is no problem. It can have Walmart, it can be anybody. It can be Flipkart, it can be Snapdeal. Please create platforms. And you please create industry-wide platforms. Anybody should be able to plug in through an API integration. And you lay down basic 6 fields. For your purposes, you may take 10 fields from the people. But these 6 fields are essential fields required by the business, required by the regulator, required by the operator, required for sharing information. Rest of the thing you may catch yourself depending upon you and the customer. But this is an important aspect which I thought. The greatest problem of India's digital development is this. We don't create platforms. We create software, and we are willing to do it for Walmart, but we are not willing to do it for the nation. You need to create accesses by which I am able to take on Walmart. And we are in a position to do so. You create platforms, you are through. I'll give you an example. The example is the port community system platform. Last year, it was a simple website. From website, it became a portal for JNPT and Mumbai Port Trust. From that, it got extended to a portal for all the 13 ports. Then it was extended to any port who wants to enter into it. That's the 4th stage of development. 5th, it became a portal because others said that I cannot have a portal, I have other fields, so you make it a platform. So certain essential fields were there, other fields related to your port, and it was kept. And you could have an API integration into it. Now it has become a platform of platforms. Entire private people who have service providers, shipping lines, everybody are into it. Odex is into it. Jail Bakshi is into it. All others are into it. Something like Shipsy, delivery, all of them are getting integrated into the platform. Apart from all the shipping lines and various things who are entitled to it. And last month, the government decided that the same port community system will also be the national logistics portal. So, air cargo will get it. Why? Because what's going to be my contribution in that portal? It's the governmental stack. IceGate, PGA, Certificate of Origin, PHDI Chamber of Commerce issuing Certificate of Origin, you should be on TCS. So that your Certificate of Origin is seen international. And nobody has any doubt about its authenticity because it is coming from a platform which is authentic. And you are integrated into it. Nobody can access into it through that API integration. And that's the way to go. I would appeal to people like Google in this seminar, all of you, because it's a digitization seminar, please help create the India stack. That's the way to go. Something like PhD Chamber can own the stack. It's not rocket science. Individually, why I'm suggesting institutions? Because let's talk about the port community system. It's so costly doing a platform that individual companies cannot do it. It's only big nations who can do it. Nations like India, there are several nations in the Gulf who cannot afford a platform like port community system. And they are negotiating with the minister to have access to that platform because it has got so much of features.
It's amazing. Amazing actually.
Yes, because the cost of developing a platform is 500 crores. How many people can afford 500 crores? And it costs 100 crores to maintain per annum. And if I add the national logistics, it's a different matter. The ports simply put 10 crores and be done with it. Because they can afford it. But how many companies can afford it? It's only nations who can afford platforms. It's only big institutions and cooperative of all institutions who can afford it. A PhD chamber on its own can afford a certain aspect of the platform. Then you integrate it so that I integrate it with others who have developed the other part so that you are going together. But that's the way to go. The way to go is platforms and digitization. The way to digitization, my message will be that you need to help India create platform, and all of you are in it. And the service provision, nobody is telling you how much you should charge. If you are rendering a service, you jolly well charge. Nobody is asking you. But monopolization is something which will actually ensure, people may not say, I don't like monopolization. People will say, isko band karo. And that's what will happen in India. The indirect way of how we articulate in business forums and in this thing is, isko band karo. They won't say, nahi, isko digitized platform karo. They'll say, nahi, ye theek nahi. And that's one of the responses which is coming. Once you are able to make it as a platform, I would strongly say that we will become the base where people can use the services. I mean, there is no reason why the services is not used in Europe. After all, it's on the cloud. People can use it. So why I should be exclusive here and not be providing services there? And that because the platform lends itself to a global audience. And India for global, the way for India to reach global is through the digitized platform. Because it provides what the digitization does, what is the primary duty of logistics. And the primary duty of logistics is provide access. That is the only thing which logistics does. If you don't have access, there is no trade. There is no movement. I would caveat it along with the physical aspect, but that's what digitization and platforms also do. And I would say that it fulfills a very major contribution in logistics of access, and that access we should be looking at global audiences so that our products, when we say digitized platforms, say our products should be available globally, and that's the way to go. I thought I've spoken enough. I thought these are, never do a mistake of giving the mic to a bureaucrat on a Thursday morning or whatever it is.
You were not the bureaucrat at all today. You were the thinker today.
Are you there any grant available?
And before Sir closes, just to add to that.
And I would conclude my speech by thanking each one of you for your very patient hearing. And I know some of the views would elicit debate, and that's the purpose of. You can take it that it's one of the purposes of my submissions to you today. I'm sure it encourage a very healthy debate. So much will be better by that. Thanks a lot for your patience.
Thank you.